What's going on, everybody? I know this video is kind of late, but that's because a lot of stuff came up and I wanted to make sure that this character worked first and foremost. So it was a lot of testing, a lot of backs and forths, talking to people that I knew. But before I get into the build, I need to go over Valcan and his combat style. He's not very inept with weapons, and he's more of a fist. He is an unarmed fighting type that uses magic to aid his unarmed fighting. Also being able to have a form of Ultra Instinct type that I have dubbed the Dark Insight, which used to be known as the Dark Knowledge in his debut video over on the Vegas Star channel. That's his combat style, and that is his... This is kind of like sets the baseline for our goals. And the three goals I wanted to go over for this build is I wanted him to be effective at unarmed combat, I wanted him to be effective with magic, and I wanted him to be very difficult to hit, which is kind of how I'm supplementing the kind of Ultra Instinct natural dodge type. You can just flavor it up. For this build, we're going standard point array, roll if you want, but it is highly important that you keep in mind multi-classing requirements, as this is a multi-classed build. Shocker. For the race, we're actually going to use the custom race from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This race, while not in particular any other book, nor is it a very specific type, Valcan is a half-breed of pure energy and demonic prowess, I guess, in a way. That'll be further explained in a future video. But being the custom race, we'll take Dark Vision as one of our racial traits, and we'll get a feat at level 1. With that feat, we're going to take the Fighter Initiate feat, which will get us the unarmed fighting style from Fighter class, also from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This allows us to do 1d4 at the beginning of our turns to a grappled foe. On top of our unarmed strikes. On top of unarmed strikes we deal, do 1d6 or 1d8 when not using a shield plus our strength modifier. This will be important later about why strength is a dump stat. As a bonus, we get +2 to 1 stat, which we're going to put to Dex, immediately increasing our Dex from 14 to 16. Background doesn't necessarily matter. I recommend anything that grabs Insight and Intimidation. Valcan is a very intimidating individual, especially when he knows your deepest, darkest secrets. But for this build, I went with Outlander, which will give us Survival and Intimidation, which is nice. And then we'll kick things off simple with a Monk. Monk, as a level 1 Monk, will gain proficiency in simple weapons and short swords, as well as proficiency in strength and dex saving throws. And from the skill list, we'll grab the acrobatics and athletics. I don't like using starting equipment. Roll for your gold and pay for what you need. Also at level 1 Monk, we get unarmored defense, which will give us an AC of 10 plus our dex mod plus our wisdom modifier. We'll also get martial arts, which allows us to use dex instead of strength for unarmed attack. And I did rules check this. If you combine the two, you get the 1d6 or 1d8 from the fighter unarmed combat, and you can use the dex modifier. This basically, without a shield, we'll be able to do a rapier's worth of damage at level 1 using this kind of mix. It's a bit of a cheat code. It does become irrelevant later, as you'll see, but the early game, I think it's important. And also for martial arts, when making an unarmed attack, we can make an additional unarmed strike as a bonus action, which is nice. Then we'll move to level 2. We'll also take our second level on Monk, where we get access to Ki. Our Ki saving DC is 8 plus a proficiency bonus plus our wisdom modifier. We'll also get Flurry of Blows, being able to spend 1 Ki point to make 2 unarmed attacks as a bonus action. We'll get Patient Defense, spend 1 Ki point to take the dodge as a bonus action. And then Step with the Wind, 1 point for the disengage or dash as a bonus action. We'll also get Unarmored Movement, additional movement when not wearing armor, which starts off at a +10. So our starting speed is 40. We're fast and we're dexterous. Moving on to level 3, we'll also take another level in Monk, being able to get our Monk Tradition, which will take Drunken Master. Drunken Master is from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. With the Drunken Master, we'll gain proficiency in Performance and Brewer Supplies. We'll also get access to the Drunken Technique, which when using the Flurry of Blows, will gain the benefits of Disengage and also increase our movement by 10, which will make it 50 for the round if we use Flurry of Blows. We'll also gain the ability to deflect missiles. When we're hit by any range attack, we can use a reaction to reduce damage by 1d10 plus our dex mod plus monk level, and if the damage is reduced to 0 or less than 0, and the projectile can fit in your hand, you can spend 1 Ki point to make a ranged weapon attack to Return to Sender, made with proficiency with a normal range of 20 and long of 60. Moving on to level 4, we'll take our 4th level in Monk, getting an ability score increase, which will allow us to bump our dex up to 18 now. We'll also have a total of 4 key points at this point. We'll gain the slow fall feature, allowing us to use our reaction to reduce damage from falling by 5 times our Monk level, which is nice, because who wants to take damage from falling? Now moving on to level 5, we'll actually start our multi-classing. We will move on to Sorcerer, and specifically Divine Soul, and then we'll be a Divine Soul Law. Lore-wise, this will make sense. But taking Law, we'll be able to get Blessed as in addition to our spells known. We can also learn spells from the Cleric spell list. And, top it all off, we are now favored by the gods. If we fail a save or miss an attack roll, we can roll an additional 2d4 to add to the total, and we can only use this feature once per long rest. Also, at level 1, we get Spellcasting, which we get access to 4 cantrips and 2 known spells with 2 level 1 spell slots. For our cantrips, we'll go with Shocking Grasp. We can make a touch spell attacks that deals 1d8 lightning damage on a hit, because we need Lightning Fist too. Sword Burst, creatures within a 5-foot radius make a dex save, or take 1d6 on a failed save, because AoE is nice. And why not just have a Rage Burst moment? Lightning Lure, striking a creature within 15 feet, they must succeed on a strength save, or be thrown/pulled up to a 10-foot line. Then, if they are within 5 feet of you, they can take 1d8 lightning damage. Because when you're just punching things, people running away is not fun. We'll also get Chill Touch, just in case they're a little bit beyond Lightning Lure. With a range of 120 feet, a skeletal hand will grab onto the target, dealing 1d8 necrotic damage, and hangs on. If the undead are under this effect, they also have disadvantage. So also our known spells, we get Blessed thanks to us being a Law Divine Soul Sorcerer, which means up to 3 willing creatures are blessed when making an attack roll or saving throw. They can add 1d4 to the total, which is nice because we want to make sure our punches actually connect. We'll gain Shield, which is a spell which has a reaction. We can spend 1 spell slot to add 5 to our AC. Just in case they get a little too close to our comfort, we can just use our shield as another form of like natural dodging. And then, just in case we want to turn up the heat a little bit, we have Burning Hands. We erupt a 15-foot cone from our hands, and creatures within that cone have to make a dex save, taking 3d6 on a failed and half on a successful save. Moving on to level 6, we'll jump back over to Monk for action and attack, and we'll gain access to Stunning Strike. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, yes, unarmed is a melee weapon attack. Your fists are not weapons. I'm looking at you, unarmed paladins. You can spend 1 key point to force a Constitution save, or be stunned until the end of the next turn. Because why do you want them to be able to actually do anything on their turn? It's great for 1v1 situations where you just constantly Stunning Strike them until they're dead. Have fun with that. Moving on to level 7, we'll take our 2nd level Sorcerer, which will give us Font of Magic, which means sorcery points. Oh my god, the most complex thing I've ever had to read. We'll gain Flexible Casting, which means we can exchange our points for spell slots, and the amount of points equals the amount of slots, or the level of the slot. So starting with 2 sorcery points, we can either spend 1 point for 1 level 1 spell slot, or we can spend 2 points for 1 level 2 spell slot. Makes sense? Math. We'll also gain another spell here, which will take Detect Poison and Disease, which means we know if something's poisoned or diseased. Holy sh**, self-explanatory. Jumping over to level 8, we'll take our 6th level in Monk. We get Keen Power Strikes. Our fists are not considered magical. We are a demon with demon bloodline, after all, made of pure energy. Who would have thought our fist would not be magical? We'll also gain Tipsy Sway from our Drunken Master feat. So, when we're prone, we instead spend 5 feet to stand up instead of wasting an action. And when a creature misses us with a melee attack roll, we can spend 1 key point as a reaction to cause that attack to hit another creature within 5 feet that's not the attacker. You ever been so pissed off you just hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker? That's basically this feat. Oh, we also get Unarmored Movement starting at 15 feet. So as long as we're not wearing armor, we get an additional 15 feet movement. We are fast as speed. Moving on to level 9, we'll take Monk level 7. We'll get the skill Evasion. And when making a dex save to determine half damage instead of no damage, at Monk level 7 we'll get Evasion. So when making a dex save to determine whether or not we take half damage from something, we instead take no damage, aka Fireball. I'm looking at you specifically, wizards and sorcerers. Fireball. We'll also get Stillness of Mind, and we can use an action to end the Charm or Frighten effect. We're not the brightest, and we're not the wisest. We are a demon who fights first and asks questions later, and it generally doesn't give a shit about things. So, not being able to be charmed or frightened is a great perk. Moving on to level 10, we'll take our 8th level of Monk, which is another ability score increase, and we'll just max out our dex up to 20 because we like to punch things harder and move faster and be less likely to be hit. Level 11, we'll take our 9th level monk. We get unarmored improvement as we can now move through liquids and vertical unbothered, meaning we don't waste extra movement because we don't have any to spare. We'll move on to monk level 10 to get purity of body. We're now immune to poison and disease, and we get unarmored movement added up to 20 feet instead of the 15 from earlier. We are really fast. Like really fast. Also, now that we're immune to poison and disease, you can use the option to swap out poison disease for another spell if you so wish. Level 11 monk, we get Drunkard's Luck. When making an ability check, an attack roll, or save while having disadvantage, you can remove the disadvantage on it by spending 2 key points. Because who cares? We do what we want. We can see things and we know things that no one else should know. Level 14, we'll take our 3rd level of Sorcerer, where we get access to Meta Magic. We'll take Transmuted Spell and Empowered Spell. We'll take Transmuted Spell and Empowered Spell. Transmuted Spell, once we can spend 1 key point to change the spell damage type to one of the following from the list: Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Poison, or Thunder. And an Empowered Spell, when rolling damage for a spell, you can spend 1 key point to re-roll a number of damage dice equal to your Charisma modifier, and you must use the new rolls. Bit of a caveat in case you roll a little low. No greed is allowed here, apparently. Also with level 3, we get access to level 2 spells. Since we only get 1 extra known spell, between the 2 I'm going to read, I would take Mirror Image over Misty Step. But if you swap out Poison Disease, you can take both, which I recommend doing. Mainly because we're immune to poison, so it doesn't really matter if we know whether or not it's poison. I guess that depends on your party. Anyways, Mirror Image. You can create 3 duplicates of yourself when a creature attacks you, we roll a d20 to determine if the attack hits you or an image. With 3 duplicates, on a 6 or higher, it hits an image. With 2 duplicates, an 8 or higher hits an image. And with 1 duplicate, 11 or higher hits the final image. The duplicate's AC is equal to 10 plus your dex modifier. When an attack hits a duplicate, the duplicate dissipates. It just stops existing. It's like Naruto's Shadow Clone Jutsu. And then Misty Step. We can teleport 30 feet away. Shadow Walking, which we will show you later. Level 12 Monk, we get a feature, and I'm going to take Gift of the Metallic Dragon from Fizzband's Treasury of Dragons. We get Draconic Healings, which means we get the Cure Wounds spell, and we're going to select Charisma as our casting ability bonus, as we are also a sorcerer. A creature you touch is healed 1d8 plus the spell modifier, and does not affect undead or constructs. Sad. But the real reason I wanted this feat is the Protective Wings. As a reaction to being hit or an ally being hit within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to manifest spectral wings that shield you or your ally, adding your proficiency modifier to your AC. Valcan is part dragon. Hallelujah. And this makes sense now. Level 16, we're now 13 level monk, we get Tongue of Sun and Moon. We can use Key to understand languages, just in case those angels get a bright idea speaking a language I don't understand. At level 14 monk, we'll get Diamond Soul. We get proficiency in all saving throws, and we bump our unarmored movement to 25 from 20. We are fast. We can run across the room and back in less than 6 seconds. Congratulations. At Monk 15, we get Timeless Body. We cannot magically be aged, and we no longer need food or water. Technically, Valcan's not supposed to be able to be aged at all, but using the custom race, we have to make some sacrifices. At 16th level Monk, we get another ability score increase. You're going to increase your Charisma and Wisdom modifier here, mainly because I just wanted those bumped up and I didn't know what else to do here, and no feature I can think of really helped us here. And then we're going to take our final level as a monk at level 17. Now this is where the unarmed combat becomes pointless, as our martial arts die is now 1d10, which is better than the unarmed fighting style. But we also get Intoxicated Frenzy. When using a Flurry of Blows, you can make an additional 3 attacks, totaling 5 Flurry of Blows attacks, if those attacks target different creatures this turn. So if you're surrounded by 4 you can attack with your action, bonus action Flurry of Blows, make 2 attacks against the same guy. Then if you have 3 other guys closer to you, those 3 each get hit. AoE control. It's nice. We like it. Groups are hard to deal with on your own, and this is our way of doing it. Now that we hit level 20, I want to go over some quick pros and cons of the build, and then move on to how items can improve on this build. For pros, we have access to magic, which allows us to be a bit more utility than your average monk without really sacrificing too much, since Charisma is one of those stats that's oddly relevant in and out of combat. Another good thing is we have a pretty high AC and a very high movement speed. being able to take disengage and all that without having to expend our action, being able to move through, without taking opportunity attacks is phenomenal. And with the high AC, we are difficult to hit. So, who likes being hit? Not me. Caveat to this is we don't get the level 20 monk stuff, which does suck, but I feel like it is worth it. Also, we are very squishy. For a level 20, we only have 120 HP, and that's not a lot. At least that's only if you take the average. If you're feeling gambling, you can roll and get higher. Now, I want to move on to items that can help you. And from this build, most of these are tattoos from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. These items range from uncommon to legendary, so talk to your DM about it. Starting off, we're going to talk about the Bloodthirsty tattoo. It is a legendary rarity, which requires attunement. Has 10 charges, and you regain all charges expended at the dawn of each day. Upon a successful melee weapon attack, yes, unarmed is still a melee weapon attack, not weapons. I will die on this hill. Spend 1 charge to add an extra 4d6 necrotic damage and regain all HP equal to the number of necrotic damage dealt. Moving on to the next tattoo, we have the Coiling Grasp tattoo, which is uncommon, also requires attunement. And you can use your action to pull a target with a DC 14 strength check, or they can take 3d6 force damage and be considered grappled, which works really great with our unarmed combat fighting. Because remember, they're considered grappled by us. That doesn't mean they're next to us. And they take 4d6 damage at the start of our turn just for free. And the last one is the Eldritch Claw tattoo, also an uncommon, also requires attunement. Your unarmed is considered magic. This is more for the early game. Your unarmed become +1, which means you get a +1 to hit and a +1 to damage. As a bonus action, you can empower the tattoo for 1 minute. And an unarmed strike can be made up to 15 feet, dealing an extra 1d6 force damage and can't be used again till dawn. Like I said, Valcan is more of a unarmed combatant. While he will use magic to buff himself and give himself the advantage, it is not his main priority to be casting spells, although it is an option he likes to keep open just in case fighting doesn't become an acceptable option. His fists sometimes don't always work. Now that the build is done and I found ways to improve on the build, there was a lot of things within the process of making this character that popped into my brain as some pretty useful alternatives if certain things aren't available or if you want some type of other experience. So one of the alternative races I thought about using and I fought heavily for in the back of my mind was using the Scourge Azimir. By using the rulings in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, you're able to move around racial bonuses. So moving the +2 to dexterity and the +1 to charisma, we get a character that's slightly more charismatic for his casting in the early game without having to wait so long for that 1+1 later down the line just because I didn't know what feat to use. Also, the level 3 Azimir ability to have a dangerous aura is really cool. It also fits into the realm of Valcan's character as it kind of seems like this rage mode that does extra damage, and the whole point is, well, I'll explain why that's a point in another video. Now, the drawbacks of using the Scourge Azimir is we lose the early damage with our martial arts only doing a d4 of damage and only becoming a d6 around, I think, 5th level monk, which is a long time to wait, and a d4 is little damage without having your subclass to kind of back you up for that early game. And even though unarmed fighting does become pointless later once our martial arts die kind of matches that d8, either way, the early game is still going to be way more manageable with that increased damage, even if it means not having a little bit of extra passive damage. I feel like being able to do 1d8 for each attack in the early game is crucial. Now, if you don't want to use the Drunken Master, there's a couple of other subclasses for Monk I highly recommend. Divine Soul Sorcerer, sadly, is kind of the best one for this build, not only for flavor reasons, but also mechanical reasons. Getting access to the Cleric spell list opens up a huge realm of possibilities for spells. Although the ones I mostly chose, other than Bless, are from the Sorcerer spell list, you can mix and mash, and it would probably still make sense for Valcan as a character. But Monk had 2 other subclasses that not only were interesting to me, but also fit Valcan as a character. One of the subclasses being the Dragon Monk from this Treasury of Dragons. Big flavor win, as he is part dragon, lots of unique abilities, really cool abilities, increased movement, being able to do more draggy things, and play more into his dragon heritage than I did here. I more typecasted him with the Drunken Master. If you go see his intro video on the Vegastar channel, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that should be a fun time. Now, the other monk subclass we could talk about is the Way of the Open Hand. It is a very basic monk class from the Player's Handbook, and that has to do all with just the unarmed combat, giving extra features and abilities when you hit with your unarmed combat, like stunning him, or not stunning him, but knocking him prone, pushing him back. You know, especially when you're doing so many at once, it can get kind of out of hand. And one of the big reasons I heavily considered the Open Hand was for an ability that I thought was really cool, and that is their vibration technique at level 17. They can input lethal vibrations into the opponent's body, and as long as that creature and the monk are on the same plane, you can expend an action to either end the vibrations harmlessly or try and make their heart explode. Even if they make a Constitution save. If they fail to save, their heart explodes and they die. Just die. If it succeeds, it takes 10d10 necrotic damage. So either way, I feel like that creature that is vibrating is just dead. And the last thing I want to talk about alternatives for is background. One of the issues for this build, like I said before, is the low HP, even for a level 20 character. Now, if you are in the Spelljammer setting and wanting to build this, I highly recommend taking the Wild Spacer background for the tough feature, because you get the tough feat at level 1, which will compound over the course of this character's existence, giving him more HP, probably 3 to 4 times the amount of HP he has now, which will pad you up for those times where you do unfortunately get hit, because sometimes nat 20s are a thing. But another thing is, a lot of DMs that I know will only allow this feature within Spelljammers, so if you're not in Spelljammers, please talk to your DM before taking this background. And another problem is that feature pretty much exists purely for Spelljammers. That background exists purely for Spelljammers. Outside of Spelljammers, there's a couple of things in there that are just blatantly worthless, and almost to the point where the only thing that makes me want to grab this background is the tough feature, just to pad your life total in the early game. But that is Valcan, the Drunken Master Divine Soul Sorcerer. Please let me know what you think about him in the comments below, and let me know what other characters you want me to build here. I will probably put them up on my Twitter, which you can see here. Please also go follow me over there, because I like to post when I'm streaming, which you can also watch me stream here. Special thanks to Lyra for editing this video. Special thanks to Vegastar for my debut video, which I'm going to link the shit out of. Yep,